In the heart of the bustling metropolis, where towering skyscrapers pierced the evening sky like ambitious dreams turned to steel and glass, the grand opening gala for Harrington Tower unfolded in all its opulent glory, a spectacle of wealth and influence that drew the city's most prominent figures to its sprawling ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers that cascaded light like 1,000 captured stars, velvet drapes in deep crimson hues, framing floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the twinkling cityscape, and marble floors polished to a mirror-like sheen that reflected the elegant attire of the 200 guests milling about with champagne flutes in hand, their conversations a symphony of laughter, clinking glasses, and whispered deals that could shift fortunes overnight. Reginald Harrington, the self-made billionaire at the helm of Harrington Enterprises, stood at the center of it all, his tailored tuxedo fitting his broad frame like a second skin, his silver hair slicked back with precision, and his sharp blue eyes scanning the room with the predatory gleam of a man who had clawed his way from modest beginnings to unimaginable power, building an empire on real estate developments that reshaped skylines and filled his coffers with billions, yet carrying within him a lingering resentment toward those he deemed beneath him, a chip on his shoulder that manifested in subtle barbs and overt displays of dominance whenever the opportunity arose. At 58, Reginald was known not just for his business acumen, but for his unyielding control over every aspect of his life, from the boardroom where he brokered multi-million-dollar mergers to his family, where his word was law. And tonight, as the orchestra played a lively overture in the background, he reveled in the adulation, raising his glass in toast that celebrated not only the tower's completion, but his own unassailable status among the elite. His wife, Sophia Harrington, glided through the crowd nearby, her emerald gown shimmering under the lights, her poise the product of years in high society, where she had honed her skills in ballroom dancing through exclusive lessons at the city's finest clubs, winning minor accolades that she wore like badges of her refined upbringing, though her talents were more polished hobby than profound artistry, serving to enhance her role as the perfect hostess in Reginald's world of appearances. Their son, Alexander Harrington, 29 and heir apparent to the empire, lingered on the periphery, his handsome features marked by a quiet unease, his dark hair tousled just enough to hint at a rebellion against his father's rigid expectations, dressed in a sleek black suit, but carrying himself with a humility that set him apart from the ostentatious crowd, his mind often wandering to his own aspirations beyond the family business, perhaps in philanthropy or creative ventures that prioritized impact over profit, though he dared not voice them aloud for fear of Reginald's disapproval, which could come swift and cutting. The evening progressed smoothly until a minor mishap disrupted the harmony. Elena Ramirez, a 34-year-old contract maid hired for the event through a staffing agency, her uniform a simple black dress with a white apron that blended her into the background like so many service workers in such gatherings, was navigating the crowded floor with a tray of sparkling beverages when a guest's abrupt turn caused her to stumble slightly, sending a cascade of glasses tumbling to the ground with a resounding crash that echoed through the ballroom, shattering the fragile illusion of perfection and drawing every eye to the scene. Elena, with her warm brown skin glowing softly under the lights, her dark curls tied back neatly, and her expressive eyes wide with momentary surprise, knelt quickly to gather the shards, her hands steady despite the embarrassment, her posture revealing a quiet grace that few noticed amid the chaos. Having taken this job only a few weeks prior as one of many gigs to make ends meet in a city that demanded resilience from those on its margins, the sound cut through the music like a knife, silencing the orchestra momentarily as murmurs rippled through the guests, some shaking their heads in feigned sympathy while others exchanged amused glances, the kind of reaction that spoke volumes about the invisible hierarchies at play in rooms like this, where the help was expected to be invisible until needed. Reginald, ever the opportunist for asserting his authority, seized the moment with a booming laugh that carried across the room, his voice laced with condescension as he pointed his champagne flute toward Elena, declaring loudly enough for all to hear, "If you can dance a proper waltz without tripping over your own feet, I'll marry my son to you right here tonight." His words dripping with sarcasm, intended as a cruel jest that played on her apparent clumsiness and her position as a maid, eliciting chuckles from the crowd who saw it as harmless entertainment at the expense of someone they viewed as inconsequential. Alexander, standing nearby, felt a flush of discomfort rise in his cheeks, whispering urgently to his father, "Dad, that's uncalled for. She's just doing her job." But Reginald waved him off with a dismissive gesture. His face flushed from the fine scotch he'd been indulging in all evening, his power intoxicating him more than any drink, as he continued, striding toward the center of the room like a king addressing his court. "No, seriously, this young lady clearly lacks the coordination even for simple tasks. Let's see if she can handle something as elegant as a waltz. If she outshines my dear Sophia, well, Alexander here could use a partner with some unexpected flair." The guests tittered, some women fanning themselves dramatically while pretending to be shocked, the men nodding in agreement as if this were a witty parlor game, the atmosphere thickening with a collective sense of superiority that masked deeper insecurities, while Elena remained on her knees, carefully picking up the broken pieces, her expression not one of defeat or anger, but a profound composure, her eyes scanning the room with an assessing gaze that took in every mocking smile, every averted glance, as if cataloging the moment for later reflection. The event coordinator, a harried man in a crisp suit, attempted to intervene discreetly, murmuring, "Mr. Harrington, perhaps we should move on to the speeches," but Reginald cut him off sharply, his voice rising, "Nonsense, let's make this evening memorable. Cue the orchestra for a waltz. And if this maid can dance it better than my wife, who's quite the accomplished dancer herself, I'll make good on my word. Imagine the Harrington heir wed to the help." The laughter swelled now, a wave of shared amusement that bordered on unkindness, as bets began to circulate informally among the guests, wagers placed on how quickly Elena would falter, the room's energy shifting from celebratory to something more voyeuristic, a modern coliseum where the powerful toyed with the powerless for sport. Elena finally rose, brushing off her apron with deliberate care, her movements fluid and controlled, locking eyes with Reginald in a way that made a few onlookers shift uncomfortably, the silence stretching as she weighed her response, the air heavy with anticipation, until she spoke clearly and firmly, "I accept your challenge, Mr. Harrington," her voice cutting through the din like a clarion call, stunning the room into quiet once more, the orchestra hesitating in their tuning as Reginald blinked in surprise, his arrogance momentarily pierced by her unexpected poise. "What was that?" he demanded, leaning in as if he hadn't heard correctly. But Elena repeated herself with a faint smile that held no malice, only quiet confidence. "I accept, and when I dance better than your wife, you'll honor your promise, even if it started as a lighthearted remark." The crowd erupted in louder guffaws, assuming this was the pinnacle of folly, a maid daring to compete in such a refined art. But amid the mockery, no one caught the subtle spark in Elena's eyes, a flicker of something deeper, a remnant of a life once lived in the spotlight, now hidden beneath layers of anonymity and necessity. As the challenge solidified, Reginald circled the room like a triumphant host, encouraging more bets. "1,000 says she can't last the first verse." His son Alexander watching with growing dismay, his mind racing with thoughts of fairness and the toxicity of his father's world, while Elena stood apart, her thoughts turning inward to memories she kept locked away, the ballroom's grandeur fading as she prepared mentally for what was to come, the chandeliers above seeming to dim slightly in the face of the impending shift in dynamics. The bartender, a seasoned observer named Luis who had worked countless such events, leaned against his station, wiping a glass absently as he watched Elena, noting the way she held herself not like someone defeated, but like an athlete before a match, her posture erect, her breathing even, whispering to a fellow server, "There's more to her than meets the eye." I've seen that kind of calm before in people who faced real trials. The guests continued their mingling, but an undercurrent of excitement buzzed through the air, whispers speculating on the outcome, some recalling Sophia's dancing prowess from previous galas where she had led demonstrations, her steps precise and elegant, learned from the best instructors money could buy, though lacking the raw passion that comes from true dedication. Reginald, sensing the room's engagement, amplified the spectacle, calling out to Alexander, "Son, get ready to meet your potential bride, though I doubt it'll come to that," his laughter booming. But Alexander's response was muted, a tight smile masking his internal conflict, his eyes meeting Elena's briefly in a moment of silent solidarity, recognizing in her gaze a strength he admired, even as he grappled with his own position in this unfolding drama. As the orchestra tuned up for the waltz, the classic strains of Strauss filling the space tentatively, the crowd formed a loose circle around the designated dance floor, cleared of tables and chairs by efficient staff. The marble underfoot now, a stage for what promised to be an unforgettable display, Reginald positioning himself at the forefront, arms crossed in smug anticipation, Sophia approaching with a practiced smile, her confidence unshaken as she adjusted her gown, ready to showcase her skills against what she perceived as an unworthy opponent. Elena, meanwhile, allowed herself a moment to stretch subtly, her muscles responding with a familiarity that belied her current role. Her mind flashing briefly to the community center where she sometimes volunteered, helping kids with basic steps in secret sessions that kept her connected to her past without exposing it. The challenge now pulling her toward a revelation she hadn't planned but felt compelled to embrace. The air grew thick with expectation, the champagne flowing more freely as guests placed side wagers, the event coordinator hovering nervously, aware that this diversion could either elevate the gala's memorability or spiral into awkwardness. But Reginald's influence brooked no opposition. His empire built on such bold moves that intimidated rivals and solidified alliances. Alexander, torn between loyalty and principle, sidled closer to his father, attempting once more to dissuade him. "This isn't right, Dad, it's demeaning." But Reginald's retort was sharp. "Life's demeaning for those who don't rise above it. She'll learn her place, and you'll learn to lead without sentiment." The words hung heavy, underscoring the generational divide. Alexander's modern sensibilities clashing with his father's old-school ruthlessness, a tension that mirrored broader shifts in society where empathy was beginning to challenge unchecked privilege. As the moment approached, Elena's resolve hardened, her acceptance not born of recklessness, but a deep-seated determination to confront the belittlement head-on, her voice steady as she confirmed the terms once more. Let's proceed then with the understanding that words have weight, especially in front of witnesses, her statement eliciting a few raised eyebrows among the more thoughtful guests, who began to sense that this might not unfold as predictably as assumed. Reginald, undeterred, signaled the orchestra to prepare, the room's energy peaking as the challenge became irrevocable, the spark of humiliation igniting a fire that would soon reveal truths long buried, the ballroom's glittering facade cracking just enough to let in the light of unexpected possibility, setting the stage for a transformation that none could foresee in that instant of suspended anticipation. The guests leaned in, conversations hushed to whispers, the air scented with perfumes and the faint tang of spilled champagne, the chandeliers casting prismatic patterns on the walls, while outside the windows, the city lights twinkled indifferently, a world apart from the drama unfolding within. Luis, the bartender, from his vantage point, continued to observe his own experiences as an immigrant, informing his quiet support for Elena, murmuring to himself about the underdogs who occasionally turned tables, his hands busy mixing drinks, but his mind attuned to the subtle shifts in power dynamics that such events could provoke. Sophia, now center stage, performed a few warm-up twirls, her movements graceful but conventional, drawing polite applause that bolstered her ego, her glance toward Elena, one of pity mixed with superiority, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the maid's calm exterior. Reginald, reveling in the control, announced the rules with flair. First Sophia will demonstrate, then our challenger, may the best dancer win. Though we all know how this ends, his confidence absolute, yet in Elena's eyes there lingered a quiet assurance, a hint of the discipline forged in arenas far more demanding than this gilded cage, her acceptance marking the true beginning of a reckoning that would challenge not just her skills, but the very foundations of the hierarchies represented in that room. As the music swelled, the challenge hung in the balance, a pivotal moment where mockery met metal, and the spark of humiliation promised to evolve into something far more illuminating, the guests oblivious to the depth of the story about to unfold, their laughter fading into a tense hush as the waltz's opening notes beckoned the participants forward. Alexander, watching Elena with newfound curiosity, felt a stir of admiration for her courage, his own discomfort evolving into a silent rooting for the underdog. The ballroom's atmosphere charged with the electricity of impending surprise, the evening's trajectory forever altered by that single shattering crash of glass. The orchestra's violins sang sweetly, the crowd's anticipation palpable, Reginald's smirk unwavering, Sophia's poise impeccable, and Elena's composure unshakable, the elements aligning for a confrontation that would echo beyond the night's festivities, a testament to the unexpected ways in which dignity could assert itself against disdain. In the periphery, other staff members exchanged glances, their solidarity unspoken but evident, aware that moments like this could inspire or intimidate, but in Elena's case, it seemed poised to empower. Her stance, a subtle declaration of worth that transcended her uniform. As the challenge commenced in earnest, the room held its breath, the spark kindled, ready to blaze into the narrative's next phase, but for now, the humiliation lingered. A catalyst for change disguised as entertainment. The gala, once a mere celebration, had transformed into a theater of human drama where the lines between performer and spectator blurred, and the true test was not of dance but of character. Reginald's hubris on full display, Alexander's conscience awakening, Sophia's confidence tested, and Elena's resilience shining through the cracks. The evening's memory etched in the minds of all present as the waltz's melody wove its spell over the assembly. And so the scene was set, the humiliation spark ignited, promising a story of redemption and revelation that would unfold in ways no one could predict. The ballroom, a microcosm of society's contrasts, where wealth met worth, and the outcome hung on the rhythm of a dance. The guests, drawn into the spectacle, positioned themselves for the best views, their conversations now centered on the unfolding event, some expressing mild concern for Elena's feelings, but most treating it as light diversion, the kind that spiced up otherwise predictable soirees. Reginald, ever the showman, circulated among his peers, collecting informal pledges for charities or just for fun, his charisma masking the underlying meanness of spirit that had propelled him to success but also isolated him from genuine connections. Alexander, meanwhile, found himself drifting closer to Elena, offering a quiet word of encouragement under his breath. "You don't have to do this." But her response, a soft "I choose to," left him intrigued, her accent hinting at a background rich with stories untold, her eyes reflecting a depth that spoke of experiences beyond menial labor. The orchestra leader, a veteran musician, sensed the unusual tension and adjusted the tempo slightly, ensuring the waltz would be accessible yet challenging, his bow ready to draw the first notes that would launch the competition. Sophia, warming up with elegant arm extensions, recalled her trophy from the previous year's social dance competition, a silver cup that sat on their mantle as a symbol of her accomplishments, though she knew deep down it was more about participation than excellence. Elena, in contrast, drew on inner resources, her mind briefly touching on the discipline of her past, the countless hours of practice that had shaped her, now channeled into this impromptu moment. The room's ambiance, with its soft lighting and orchestral swell, created a cinematic quality, as if the evening had been scripted for maximum impact. The humiliation's spark, now a glowing ember, ready to ignite the full flame of the tale. As the final preparations concluded, the challenge stood formalized. The laughter subsided into expectant silence, and the stage was set for the dance that would change everything, the spark of humiliation evolving into a beacon of potential triumph. The guests' faces, illuminated by the chandeliers, reflected a mix of amusement and curiosity, some whispering about the audacity of it all, others admiring Elena's bravery. The social fabric stretching under the weight of the moment. Reginald's voice boomed once more. "Let the dance begin!" His words sealing the pact, the waltz's rhythm poised to carry the narrative forward, the humiliation's initial sting giving way to the promise of empowerment. And in that suspended instant, the ballroom held infinite possibilities, the spark ready to illuminate the shadows of prejudice and privilege alike. The evening, once ordinary in its extravagance, had become extraordinary. A pivot point where one woman's poise challenged a tycoon's tyranny, the outcome as yet unwritten, but brimming with potential for justice and joy. The music started softly, building to its full glory, the dancers ready, the crowd engaged, and the story's first chapter drawing to its climactic close, the spark of humiliation fanning into the fire of fate. As the echoes of the challenge lingered in the opulent ballroom of Harrington Tower, where the chandeliers still twinkled like distant constellations and the orchestra's tentative notes faded into a hush of anticipation, Elena Ramirez retreated to a shadowed alcove near the service entrance, her mind a whirlwind of memories that pulled her away from the glittering facade into the quieter realms of her past, a place where the rhythm of life had once been defined not by trays and aprons, but by the sweep of spotlights and the thunder of applause on international stages. Her true identity as Elena Voss, the once celebrated world champion ballroom dancer, now buried under layers of deliberate obscurity following a fateful skiing accident that had shattered her ankle and upended her world years ago, forcing her into a life of anonymous jobs to rebuild in solitude. In the dim light of the alcove, surrounded by stacked chairs and forgotten linens, Elena allowed herself to breathe deeply, her fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air as she recalled the secret training sessions she had maintained in a rundown community center on the city's outskirts, a modest space with scuffed wooden floors and flickering fluorescent lights, where she arrived after dark, slipping in through a side door to practice alone, her movements, a private ritual that kept the fire of her passion alive, adapting her championship techniques to accommodate the lingering ache in her leg, each step a testament to her unyielding spirit that refused to let injury define her limits. There, under the watchful eye of her old mentor, Mr. Emilio, a retired dance instructor in his 70s with a mane of white hair and a voice gravelly from years of coaching prodigies, she had found solace and subtle encouragement. Emilio, recognizing her from faded newspaper clippings of her victories at the World Ballroom Championships, where she had dazzled judges with flawless Viennese waltzes and passionate tangos, her partnerships earning gold medals in Vienna, Blackpool, and beyond, her name synonymous with grace and innovation, until that ill-fated ski trip during a sponsor's retreat where a hidden ridge sent her tumbling, the crack of bone echoing in her ears as paramedics rushed her down the mountain, months of surgeries and therapy following, doctors pronouncing her competitive days over with clinical detachment, leaving her to navigate a world that valued perfection above perseverance. Emilio, who had spotted her one evening practicing incognito, approached her not with pity but with quiet respect, offering pointers on modifying holds and turns to ease the strain, their sessions evolving into deep conversations about resilience, where he shared stories of his own setbacks, a knee injury that ended his touring days, reminding her that dance was not just about the body, but the soul's expression. His words, a balm during her darkest times when she questioned her worth beyond the applause, now fueling her decision to step into Reginald's challenge, not out of spite, but as a reclaiming of her narrative, her mind flashing to those late-night practices where sweat mingled with determination, the center's worn mirrors reflecting a woman transformed by adversity into something stronger, more profound. Meanwhile, back in the ballroom's main expanse, Reginald Harrington prowled the edges of the crowd like a strategist plotting his next acquisition, his mind already scheming ways to tilt the scales, whispering to a trusted aide to ensure the lighting favored Sophia and perhaps even cue the DJ for a subtle tempo shift if needed, his business instincts applying to this personal amusement, viewing the challenge as another deal to dominate, his empire's foundations rooted in such manipulations, backroom negotiations that outmaneuvered competitors, leaving them humbled while he ascended, a pattern he intended to repeat here with Elena. Unaware of the depths he was stirring, Alexander, his son, slipped away from the throng under the pretense of fetching a drink, his heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and intrigue, making his way toward the service area where he had seen Elena disappear, his own dreams of escaping the corporate grind bubbling to the surface, visions of starting a foundation for arts education that contrasted sharply with his father's profit-driven ethos, a secret he harbored like a hidden sketchbook filled with designs for community spaces rather than skyscrapers, now compelling him to seek her out in a clandestine meeting amid the clatter of kitchen staff preparing late-night canapés. Finding her in the alcove, he hesitated at the threshold, his voice low and earnest. "I apologize for my father's behavior. It's not right, and you shouldn't feel obligated." But Elena turned to him with a measured gaze, her response carrying the weight of unspoken histories. "Obligation isn't what drives me. Sometimes opportunities arise in unexpected forms, their exchange brief yet charged." Alexander sharing a glimpse of his disillusionment with the family legacy, the pressure to conform to Reginald's vision of success that stifled his creative urges. Elena nodding in understanding, her own past mirroring that sense of confinement after her injury, when sponsors withdrew and the dance world moved on without her, forcing her to forge a new path in the shadows, their conversation forging an unlikely alliance, Alexander promising to ensure the dance floor remained fair, his admiration growing for her composure amid the storm. Among the guests, a sharp-eyed journalist named Clara Voss, no relation, but a coincidence that amused her, mingled with a notebook disguised as a phone, her keen instincts picking up on the undercurrents, piecing together clues from Elena's poise during the spill, the way her stumbles seemed almost too graceful, like a controlled fall rather than clumsiness. Her background in cultural reporting alerting her to the possibility of a deeper story, whispering to a colleague about similar tales of hidden talents in unlikely places, her mind racing with questions about Elena's origins, perhaps a fallen star from the art scene, as she observed Reginald's maneuvers and Sophia's confident warm-ups, the journalist's perspective adding layers of intrigue to the evening, her subtle inquiries among the staff revealing Elena's recent hire and quiet demeanor, fueling her suspicion that this challenge might yield more than mere entertainment. In the community center's echoes within Elena's thoughts, she recalled a recent session where Emilio had challenged her with a complex waltz variation, his cane tapping the rhythm as she executed it flawlessly despite the twinge in her ankle, his praise genuine and grounding. "You've got the heart of a champion still, don't let the world forget it." Words that now resonated as she prepared mentally for the ballroom's scrutiny, her strategy not to overpower but to reveal authenticity, contrasting Sophia's polished but surface-level expertise, learned in exclusive salons, with her own hard-earned mastery forged in competitive arenas and personal trials. Reginald, oblivious to these undercurrents, continued his behind-the-scenes orchestration, pressuring the event staff to amplify the microphones for his commentary, intending to narrate the inevitable failure with witty asides, his aide nodding compliantly while inwardly questioning the tycoon's overreach, a small crack in the facade of loyalty that hinted at broader vulnerabilities in his empire, where rivals lurked in the shadows, whispering about ethical lapses in his developments that could unravel if exposed. Alexander, returning to the main room after his encounter with Elena, felt a surge of resolve, his covert support manifesting in a quiet word to the orchestra leader to play the piece as written, no alterations. His actions a subtle rebellion against his father's control, mirroring his growing desire to steer the company toward sustainable projects that benefited communities rather than just shareholders, a vision inspired by figures like Elena, who embodied quiet strength. Clara, the journalist, positioned herself strategically near the dance floor, her phone ready to capture notes or perhaps discreet footage, her intuition sharpening as she overheard guests speculating on Elena's background, one mentioning a vague resemblance to a dancer from years past, prompting her to mentally file away leads for follow-up. The evening's psychological buildup intensifying as whispers of doubt crept into the crowd's amusement, some guests beginning to question the fairness, their perspectives diversifying the narrative from mere spectacle to a commentary on privilege. In Elena's mind, the flashbacks deepened, transporting her to the championship floor in Blackpool, the grand hall alive with energy, her sequined gown swirling as she and her partner claimed victory. The judges' scores perfect. The crowd's ovation, a wave of affirmation that contrasted starkly with the sterile hospital room post-accident, where tubes and monitors beeped relentlessly. Her recovery, a solitary battle of incremental gains, physiotherapy sessions where she relearned balance, each milestone of victory over despair, Emilio entering her life later as a beacon, his community center a sanctuary where she taught occasional classes to kids from underprivileged neighborhoods, their eager faces reminding her of dance's transformative power, now channeling that into her approach to the challenge, strategic and composed, aiming not for vengeance but validation. Reginald's rivals among the guests, disguised as allies, exchanged knowing glances, sensing an opportunity in his hubris, their whispers about potential scandals in his business dealings, adding tension, while the staff, including a sympathetic waiter who had overheard Elena's poise, formed a loose network of support, ready to assist subtly if needed. Their alliance, a quiet counter to the elite's dominance. Alexander's thoughts raced with possibilities, his meeting with Elena igniting a spark of genuine connection, her words echoing his own unspoken yearnings. The psychological layers building as the chapter wove through internal reflections and external intrigues, Elena's decision to reveal just enough solidifying in her resolve, the shadows of the past illuminating a path forward, the suspense coiling tighter without retreading the initial spark, focusing instead on the hidden depths that promised to upend the night. Emilio's voice echoed in her memory, "Dance from the soul, and the body will follow," a mantra she clung to as she visualized the waltz, adapting it to showcase her unique fusion of styles honed over years, her injury teaching her efficiency and emotion over extravagance, a contrast to Sophia's more rigid form. Clara's investigative lens captured the nuances, her notes detailing the crowd's shifting dynamics, from eager mockery to subtle unease, her presence adding a meta layer of observation that enriched the build-up. Reginald, in his element, toasted with associates, his manipulations peaking as he envisioned the outcome, reinforcing his status, yet unaware of the alliances forming against him. Alexander's quiet defiance, a harbinger of change. The community center's humble setting contrasted the tower's grandeur in Elena's mind, grounding her, the kids' laughter from her classes, a reminder of why she persisted. Their small donations, once funding her equipment, now symbolizing communal strength. As preparations neared completion, the psychological suspense mounted. Elena's internal world, a tapestry of flashbacks and strategies. Reginald's schemes, a web of control. Alexander's support, a bridge between worlds. And Clara's perspective, a lens on the unfolding drama. The chapter delving into these shadows without repetition, each element fresh and layered, building toward the inevitable rhythm that would bring reckoning. The alcove's seclusion offered Elena a final moment of centering, her breaths sinking with imagined beats, the past shadows not haunting but empowering, ready to step into the light with purpose, the intrigue deepening as the night progressed toward its pivotal turn. As the strains of the classic waltz filled the grand ballroom of Harrington Tower, their melodic waves cascading over the assembled elite like an invitation to witness history in motion, Elena Ramirez stepped onto the cleared marble floor with a presence that commanded attention, her simple maid's uniform transformed in that instant into a canvas for artistry, the crowd's murmurs fading into a charged silence as Sophia Harrington concluded her demonstration first, her steps competent and fluid, executed with the precision of someone who had invested in lessons from renowned instructors, twirling with elegant arm extensions and controlled footwork that drew polite applause from the guests, their claps echoing approval for the familiar, the expected, the embodiment of their shared world of privilege, Sophia bowing slightly with a satisfied smile, confident in her display as Reginald nodded approvingly from the sidelines, his voice booming over the music's pause. Now, let's see what our challenger brings to the floor, though I suspect it'll be brief. Entertainments. His tone laced with certainty, unaware that the rhythm about to unfold would dismantle his assumptions note by note. The orchestra restarted the piece from the beginning at Elena's quiet request, the violins singing sweetly as she positioned herself, eyes closing for a breath to sync her pulse with the tempo, her first movements deliberate and understated, a gentle sway that lulled the audience into underestimation, her feet gliding across the marble with a lightness that belied years of adaptation, each step building momentum like a gathering storm, the waltz's 3/4 time pulling her into a sequence of turns that accelerated with precision, her arms framing the air as if sculpting invisible partners, the crowd's initial snickers giving way to widened eyes as she incorporated intricate footwork quick steps, blending seamlessly into natural spins, her body defying the limitations imposed by her old injury through sheer technique and willpower, the performance evolving into a masterclass of ballroom elegance, far surpassing Sophia's routine in depth and emotion, guests leaning forward in their seats, whispers rippling through the room like, "Who is she?" And "This can't be real," the air thickening with awe, as Elena executed a flawless flexural, her spins tight and controlled, followed by a series of contra-check pivots that demanded balance and strength, her expression serene yet intense, channeling the joy of championships past into this impromptu stage, the music swelling to its crescendo as she performed a final lift-like illusion, rising on her toes with ethereal grace before concluding in a poised arabesque hold, the last notes fading as she held the pose. Breathing steady, the ballroom erupting not in mockery but in thunderous ovation, guests rising to their feet, their applause a tidal wave that rattled the crystal glasses on nearby tables, Reginald's face draining of color, his smugness shattering like fragile glass under the weight of undeniable excellence. Sophia stood frozen, her earlier confidence evaporating into stunned silence, while Alexander clapped fervently, his eyes alight with genuine admiration, the shift in the room palpable as the elite confronted the upending of their worldview, one patron, an arts enthusiast with connections to major theaters, murmuring loudly enough for others to hear, "Those moves, I've seen them in competition footage. Could she be Elena Voss?" The name sparking recognition among a few, the former champion whose disappearance after her accident had become lore in dance circles, presumed retired or faded into obscurity, the revelation gaining traction as Clara, the journalist, phone in hand, began typing furiously, her instincts confirmed. But the turning point amplified unexpectedly when a technical glitch in the event's live stream setup intended for internal company broadcast malfunctioned, the feed accidentally going public on social platforms, the dance captured in high definition and shared in real time to thousands beyond the tower's walls, viewers online reacting with instant shares and comments like "Underdog Legend Alert" and "Billionaire Schooled by Talent," the viral spark igniting faster than anyone could contain, hashtags trending within minutes as number Dance Reckoning and number Hidden Champion flooded feeds, the glitch turning a private spectacle into a global phenomenon, Reginald's aide rushing to shut it down, but too late, the damage, or rather, the justice already done. In the immediate aftermath, as the applause subsided into excited chatter, Elena addressed the room with calm authority, her voice projecting clearly, "Mr. Harrington, I believe the terms of your challenge have been met," her words prompting a hush, Reginald stammering in denial. "This must be some trick. Who are you really?" His desperation surfacing as Emilio, who had slipped into the event disguised as additional staff at Elena's earlier request, via a quick call from the alcove, stepped forward, his cane steady as he announced, "Allow me to clarify. This is Elena Voss, world champion ballroom dancer, survivor of trials that would break most, and tonight, a reminder that true skill knows no boundaries," the confirmation exploding through the crowd like fireworks, gasps and exclamations filling the air, Sophia whispering in shock, "Voss? The one who won Blackpool 3 times? But the accident." Trailing off as Elena nodded graciously, "Reports of my end were premature. I've danced in secret, rebuilt in silence, and now I stand here not for revenge but for respect." Reginald, cornered by his own words, attempted to backpedal. It was all in jest. No one takes such bets seriously. But Alexander interjected firmly, "Words matter, Father, especially when wielded as weapons. If we're to honor integrity, then let's discuss the promise." His stance of full rebellion, extending a hand to Elena in solidarity, the audience murmuring approval, Clara's live updates fueling the online frenzy, where views climbed into the millions, influencers dissecting the moment, activists highlighting themes of equity and overlooked talent. The confrontations escalated as Reginald's temper flared, his threats empty in the face of recording devices everywhere, the live stream capturing his unraveling, "You'll regret this, my lawyers will handle it," but Elena's response was measured and empowering. "What I seek isn't destruction, but acknowledgement, that judging by appearance or station diminishes us all. Let's build from here, perhaps with your support for community arts programs." Her speech resonating deeply, guests nodding in agreement, some pledging donations on the spot, the room's energy shifting from entertainment to introspection, Sophia quietly excusing herself, her role diminished in the light of superior artistry. As the night wound down, the ripple effects began, social media ablaze with clips of the dance, analyses praising Elena's technique, her seamless transitions and emotional depth, while critiquing Reginald's overreach, boycotts forming against Harrington Enterprises as partners distanced themselves, stock alerts buzzing on phones indicating early dips, the viral impact a catalyst for broader conversations on inclusivity in elite spaces. In the days following, the reckoning unfolded in waves, media outlets clamoring for interviews with Elena, who used the platform to advocate for accessible dance education, launching initiatives that drew global support. Alexander, assuming interim leadership amid board pressure on Reginald to step back, reformed the company toward ethical practices, incorporating community outreach that aligned with his long-held visions, their budding connection with Elena blossoming into collaborative projects and personal dinners where shared values forged bonds beyond the challenge. Reginald, isolated in his penthouse, faced the fallout, contracts evaporating, his reputation tarnished by headlines like "Tycoon's Waltz of Woe," his reflections in solitude forcing a grudging examination of his ways. Though change came slowly, his empire contracting as he became a cautionary tale in business circles. Elena's Academy for Underprivileged Youth opened months later, a vibrant hub with state-of-the-art studios funded by donations pouring in from the viral wave. Kids from diverse backgrounds learning not just steps but confidence, their performances echoing her journey. Emilio serving as honorary director, his pride evident in every class. Clara's in-depth article went viral too, detailing the night's twists and societal implications, amplifying voices of those who had faced similar dismissals, sparking movements for fairer opportunities in arts and beyond. Alexander's reforms at the company included scholarships tied to the academy, his relationship with Elena evolving naturally into a partnership of mutual respect, evenings spent discussing dreams over quiet meals, the rhythm of their connection as harmonious as a well-danced waltz. The long-term transformation rippled outward. Online communities formed around stories of hidden talents, inspiring countless individuals to share their own triumphs over adversity. The glitch that started it all, remembered as a serendipitous force for good, Reginald's eventual quiet philanthropy, anonymous donations to arts, causes a subtle nod to lessons learned in obscurity. Elena, at the Academy's inaugural showcase, watched her students take the stage, their joy a mirror of her reclaimed passion, reflecting on how one dance had shaken structures of exclusion, proving that excellence, when met with openness, could harmonize divided worlds, the reckoning's rhythm, a lasting melody of progress and possibility. The tower's ballroom, now a symbol not of division but of unity, forged in unexpected grace. The media frenzy continued. Documentaries in production capturing Elena's full arc, from championship highs to resilient lows and triumphant return, viewers worldwide drawing inspiration, activists leveraging the story for policy changes in workplace equity, the societal change tangible as companies adopted inclusivity training, Reginald's fall a pivot for his own growth, occasional sightings of him attending low-key dance recitals hinting at personal evolution. Alexander and Elena's collaboration extended to international workshops, blending business acumen with artistic outreach, their story a beacon for intergenerational healing, the Academy expanding branches, kids' testimonials flooding in about newfound purpose. In reflective epilogues shared online, Elena emphasized, "The true win isn't in outshining, but in uplifting," her words resonating as the viral clips replayed. The rhythm of reckoning, a timeless reminder that dignity dances through barriers, transforming not just individuals but the collective step by step. The night's legacy enduring in every inspired movement forward. The guests from that evening, scattered now, carried the memory as a touchstone, some forming alliances for charitable causes, the glitch's accidental broadcast a gift that kept giving, fostering dialogues on empathy in power dynamics, Elena's poise a model for grace under pressure. As seasons turned, the Academy hosted galas of its own, diverse crowds celebrating talent without hierarchies, Alexander's company thriving under ethical leadership, Reginald's isolation easing into quiet contributions, the full circle of change, a testament to the power of one bold acceptance. The waltz's echo, a harmonious close to the reckoning symphony.